There is a waterfall in Antarctica that bleeds, 5 stories of blood-red liquid pouring out of a white glacier onto the ice. There is a lake the size of a small country sealed beneath 2 miles of ice, cut off from the rest of the planet for 20 million years. And there is a whole hidden world down there, mountain ranges taller than anything on the east coast of America, ancient riverbeds, and over 100 volcanoes, none of which any human eye has ever directly seen. Antarctica is the most alien place on Earth. We have better maps of the surface of Mars than of the ground beneath this ice. It's a continent the size of the United States and Mexico combined, and 99% of it is buried under ice up to 3 miles thick, hiding a landscape no one has walked on in tens of millions of years. So let's go under the ice and look at what's actually down there. We start with the one that looks like a crime scene. 1. Blood Falls, the glacier that bleeds. In one of the coldest, driest places on the entire planet, the McMurdo Dry Valleys, there is a glacier with a wound. Out of a crack in the white ice pours a waterfall of deep, vivid red, 5 stories tall, staining the glacier like spilled blood and running down into a frozen lake. When explorers first saw it in 1911, they had no idea what they were looking at. For over a century, it was one of Antarctica's most unsettling mysteries. And the real explanation, when it finally came, is somehow more incredible than the horror movie version. The red isn't blood, and it isn't algae, as people first guessed. Deep beneath the glacier lies a pool of ancient water sealed off from the world millions of years ago. That water is extremely salty, so salty it can't freeze, and it's loaded with iron. When pressure from the moving glacier forces this ancient brine up through a crack and it finally touches the air, the iron instantly rusts. The water bleeds the moment it meets the sky. You're watching water that hasn't seen the sun in millions of years oxidize in real time. But here's the part that should genuinely stop you. That sealed pool isn't dead. It's home to microbes, living things, that have survived down there in total darkness, freezing cold and almost no oxygen, cut off from the surface world for millions of years, feeding on iron and sulfur instead of sunlight. Blood Falls isn't just a creepy red waterfall, it's a leak from a hidden living world we were never meant to find, and that raises a question worth sitting with. If life can survive sealed under a glacier for millions of years in the cold and the dark with no sun at all, what does that say about the frozen moons out in the solar system with their own hidden oceans under ice? I'd love to hear your take on that below, because the next thing down there isn't a leak. It's an entire hidden ocean. 2. Lake Vostok, a lost world sealed for 20 million years. Imagine a lake the size of a small country. Now bury it under 2.5 miles of solid ice and seal it there untouched for somewhere around 15 to 20 million years. That is Lake Vostok, and it is one of the most extraordinary places on Earth that you will never see. Hidden deep beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, Vostok is one of the largest lakes in the world, comparable to Lake Ontario. And it is just one of around 400 subglacial lakes scientists have found buried under that ice. For most of human history, no one even knew it was there. It was only discovered in the 1990s using radar that could see down through the ice. Think about that. A body of water that enormous, hiding under our feet, and we missed it until a few decades ago. What makes Vostok haunting is the isolation. This lake was sealed away before humans existed, before most modern animals existed. Whatever is living in that water, if anything, has been evolving in complete darkness, in total isolation from every other ecosystem on Earth for millions of years. When scientists drilled down near it, samples showed water around -3 degrees Celsius, liquid, despite being colder than freezing, kept that way by crushing pressure and salt. It's the closest thing we have to an alien world on our own planet. And here's the agonizing part. Scientists are terrified of contaminating it. Drilling down to sample a place that's been pristine and sealed for 20 million years risks ruining the very thing that makes it priceless. So it sits there, in the dark, holding its secrets, a lost world we can barely touch without destroying it. But here's the thing everyone assumed about these buried lakes, and it turned out to be dead wrong. 3. Life that shouldn't exist. The things living under the ice. For a long time, the assumption was simple. Under all that ice, Antarctica is dead. No sunlight, no warmth, no air. Nothing could possibly live deep beneath the ice sheet. That assumption turned out to be completely wrong, and the discovery rewrote what we thought life even needs to survive. In 2014, scientists drilled nearly half a mile down through the ice into a buried lake called Lake Willans and found it teeming with life, not fossils. Living, active microorganisms, thousands of species in water that had been sealed beneath the ice and hadn't seen sunlight or fresh air for many thousands of years. And these creatures had solved an impossible problem. With no sun, there's no photosynthesis, no normal base for a food chain, so they don't use sunlight at all. They pull their energy out of rock and minerals, out of methane, ammonium, iron, and sulfur, living on pure chemistry in eternal darkness. Here's why scientists were stunned and why it matters far beyond Antarctica. If life can not only survive but thrive in a sealed, frozen, sunless, high-pressure world like this, then the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn with their own hidden oceans under ice suddenly look a lot more promising. Antarctica's buried lakes are the best preview we have of where alien life might actually be hiding. The things living under that ice aren't just a biological curiosity. They're a clue about whether we're alone. And the ice isn't only hiding life, it's hiding an entire landscape we've never laid eyes on. 4. The hidden landscape. Mountains and rivers no one has seen. Here's something that sounds impossible. We have mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than we've mapped the solid ground of Antarctica, because that ground is buried under miles of ice, but the actual landscape of the continent, the real rock underneath, was a near total blank until very recently. And when scientists finally started to X-ray through the ice, what they found was a whole hidden world. Beneath the white emptiness lies a dramatic, sculpted landscape. Entire mountain ranges, some taller than the Appalachians, with jagged alpine peaks, deep valleys, scoured plains, ancient riverbeds carved by water that flowed before the ice came. As recently as January 2026, a new map revealed a gigantic hidden trench gouged into the bedrock. There is a buried mountain range down there, the Gombortsev Mountains, the size of the European Alps, that no human has ever seen and that is completely entombed in ice. A full mountain range, with peaks and valleys, sitting in total darkness under the ice sheet. And the strange thing is, no one is fully sure how mountains that sharp survived so long without being ground flat, because the ice that buried them may also have protected them. And this isn't just a curiosity. That hidden landscape is preserved like a time capsule from before Antarctica froze. Frozen riverbeds and valleys from an age when this continent looked completely different. We are standing on top of an entire buried world, an ancient frozen geography that not one living thing has laid eyes on in tens of millions of years. And we're only now, with satellites, beginning to draw the map. And buried in that same hidden landscape is the last thing you'd expect in the coldest place on Earth: fire. 5. 100 hidden volcanoes. Fire under the ice. Antarctica is the coldest place on Earth. So here is the last thing you'd expect to find buried under all that ice: fire. A lot of it, because hidden beneath the frozen surface of Antarctica is one of the largest volcanic regions on the entire planet. Scientists have identified well over 100 volcanoes buried under the West Antarctic ice sheet. A vast, hidden volcanic province, most of it completely entombed in ice. Some are extinct, but some are very much active. There is fire and molten rock beneath one of the coldest landscapes in the universe, and most of it has never broken the surface where we could see it. Picture that contradiction. Miles of ancient ice on top, and volcanoes burning in the dark beneath them. One of them, Mount Erebus, is the southernmost active volcano on Earth, and it holds something almost unbelievable, a lake of molten lava that has been bubbling, exposed in the Antarctic cold for decades, a pool of liquid fire, open to the freezing air at the bottom of the world. And this is where it stops being just a strange fact and becomes something that could affect the whole planet. That volcanic heat rising from below may be melting the underside of the ice sheet, warming the base of the glaciers from underneath, helping them slide faster toward the sea. A continent of ice being heated from below by hidden fire. The full consequences of that for the ice and for global sea levels are something scientists are still racing to understand. There is a war happening under Antarctica between fire and ice, and we're only just realizing it's there. But not everything buried in this ice came from Earth at all. 6. The meteorite trap. Pieces of other worlds. If you wanted to collect rocks from outer space, from the moon, from Mars, from the dawn of the solar system, there is no better place on Earth to do it than Antarctica. And the reason why is so elegant, it almost feels designed. Meteorites have been falling all over the Earth for billions of years, but almost everywhere else they're nearly impossible to find. They land in oceans, in forests, in deserts, and blend in or vanish. Antarctica is different. A dark space rock landing on an endless white ice sheet stands out like ink on paper. But it's better than that. When meteorites land and get buried in snow, the slow flow of the ice carries them along. And when that ice runs into a buried mountain range, it's forced upward and scoured away by fierce winds, dumping thousands of meteorites that fell across a huge area and a vast span of time into concentrated fields on patches of bare blue ice. Antarctica is a natural machine that collects space rocks and lays them out for us to find. Since 1976, programs hunting these rocks have recovered over 23,000 meteorite specimens from the Antarctic ice. And these aren't ordinary stones. Among them are pieces blasted off the surface of the moon and pieces of Mars, actual fragments of another planet lying on the ice of our own. Some carry chemistry from the very birth of the solar system. Billions of years ago, one famous Martian meteorite found here decades ago even sparked a worldwide debate about whether it contained traces of ancient microscopic life from Mars. A debate that helped launch the modern search for life beyond Earth. Antarctica isn't just hiding Earth's secrets under its ice. It's the best place on the planet to hold the secrets of other worlds. A frozen museum of the solar system sitting at the bottom of the Earth. And yet the most haunting discovery of all isn't from space. It's the memory of what this frozen continent used to be. 7. The green world underneath. Antarctica was once alive. We end with the most haunting truth of all, and it's the one that changes how you see this entire frozen continent. Antarctica was not always a wasteland of ice. Buried in its rock is the ghost of a completely different world. A warm, green, living Antarctica. Hidden in the frozen ground, scientists have found fossils, and not just any fossils. Fossils of leaves, of wood, of ancient forests. Evidence that in the deep past, Antarctica sat in a warmer world, covered not in ice but in green, lush forests, plants, flowing rivers, and the creatures that lived among them. Antarctica wasn't always at the frozen bottom of the world. The continents drift, and long ago it sat in a far warmer position, joined to other lands, sharing their forests and creatures. Even dinosaurs once walked here. There was a time when this continent, now the deadest, coldest place on Earth, was alive and growing. The land under the ice remembers being green. And here is the thought I can't shake. The one that ties this whole list together. Everything we've seen, the bleeding glacier, the sealed lakes, the life in the dark, the buried mountains, the hidden fire, the green world turned to ice. all of it tells the same story. A thriving, complex world can be erased, frozen over, and hidden so completely that we forget it was ever there. Antarctica is proof on a continental scale that the Earth can bury an entire living world without a trace. And if it happened to a whole continent, it should make you wonder what else this planet has buried and forgotten beneath our feet. So let's be honest about what "they don't want you to see" really means. The truth about Antarctica isn't a conspiracy of hidden pyramids or secret bases. The real secrets are stranger, and they're sitting in the scientific journals right now. A glacier that bleeds ancient rusted water. A lake sealed from the world for 20 million years. Living things thriving in sunless darkness on pure chemistry. Mountain ranges and 100 volcanoes no human eye has ever seen. A trap full of pieces of the moon and Mars. And the fossil ghost of a green continent, frozen and buried whole. The reason this hits differently from the fake stories is that it's real, and it's bigger than the fakes. People invent legends about Antarctica because the truth feels too vast to grasp. An entire continent the size of 2 countries, hiding a whole world under its ice that we are only now, with satellites and drills, beginning to uncover. We genuinely know more about the face of Mars than about the ground beneath that ice. And that's the unsettling thought to leave you with. We like to believe we've explored our own planet, that the age of discovery is over, that there's nothing left to find. Antarctica says otherwise. There is a hidden world right here on Earth beneath our feet that no one has ever seen, full of lost lakes, buried mountains, sleeping fire, and the memory of a green world that died. The map of our own planet is not finished. We're still drawing it. So tell me, out of all 7, which one genuinely unsettled you the most? And I'm always curious how far these videos travel, so say hi from wherever you are in the world. The ice is still keeping its secrets, and we're only just starting to dig. See you next time.